Alright, let's dive into the crazy story of parents who finally cooked a lavish feast for their son after 5 whole years. But I couldn't even fake a smile. Why? Because they were about to hand the business I built with my own blood over to my adopted brother. Surprisingly, I didn't get mad. I just agreed right away. Why? Because I was reborn, and in my past life, fighting for that company only brought me ruin. For my loyalty, my adopted brother framed me for an affair. To save my marriage and parents, I made the naive mistake of taking the blame for a massive fire he started, going straight to prison in his place. But the moment I got released, they literally threw me onto the cold streets like worthless trash. My loving wife remarried my brother, and even my sweet little daughter was happily calling him dad. My biological parents just watched coldly while I died of a brutal illness. So, after getting a second chance at life, I immediately accepted an offer from the city's richest matriarch to become her adopted son. On the exact day my wife was marrying my brother, I prepared a special little gift for them. I wanted every single person who betrayed me to feel what it's like standing in a freezing storm without me there to shield them. The old butler handed me the pen. "Arthur, once you sign this inheritance paperwork, you will officially become the son of Mrs. Sterling." He gave me exactly what I needed to fake my death and disappear. A stage 3 leukemia diagnosis. It clearly stated that the patient had only 1 single month left to live. I nodded. "Tell Mrs. Sterling that in 1 month Arthur Grayson will completely vanish from this world. From then on, there will only be her son, Zachary Sterling." Now, pay attention here. As my car rolled home under the sunset, I stared out the window with heavy sadness. Nobody realized that 3 days ago, I had actually been reborn. In my past life, when I was only 7 years old, I was kidnapped and sold. Heartbroken, my parents adopted Blake, a boy of my exact same age. 10 years later, when they finally found me, my parents had already given all their affection to Blake. I, their real flesh and blood, was left out in the cold. Luckily, I was incredibly skilled and worked myself to the bone. In 5 years, I took our family company public, raising our status to unmatched heights. But then Blake set a fire, injuring people badly. Facing 10 years in prison, my parents actually dropped to their knees and begged me to take the fall for him. "Arthur, you grew up in the mountains, so you are used to suffering," my mother wailed. "But your brother is different. He is too spoiled and won't survive in jail." My wife Lily kept pleading and promising. "Arthur, we will always love you and wait for you to come home so we can be a family." Well, I sat in that dark cell for 10 long years. On release day, other inmates were greeted by crying relatives. I stood there from sunrise to sunset. Not a single car showed up. While I was serving 10 years for his crime, Blake stole my entire life and became a rich CEO. The woman who promised to wait for me married him in my 2nd year of prison. My own daughter forgot about me and called him dad. When I learned this, my hair literally turned white overnight. Lying, dying, in a freezing, muddy alley, my daughter Mia stepped out of a luxury car wearing a beautiful dress. Holding her nose in disgust, she complained to Blake, "Dad, why did you bring me here? I do not want to look at this dirty beggar." My parents, walking arm in arm with Blake, looked at me with cold eyes, calling me an absolute embarrassment to the family. Lily stood far away, turning her back on my trembling hand. But now, I was reborn right into the exact year Blake was about to start that fire. You and I both know what is coming. I decided to abandon them entirely, but before opening the door, I heard my daughter Mia crying in the living room. "I want Uncle Blake. He buys me toys and ice cream. Dad only makes me do things I hate. I absolutely hate my dad." I listened, feeling a painful sting. Mia had a fragile stomach, and even while running a massive business, I personally watched every single thing she ate. But Blake spoiled her rotten, giving her whatever trash she wanted. And my years of careful, loving parenting, they only earned me my own daughter's hatred. Well, not anymore. I walked right into the living room without even glancing at her, calmly telling the maid to empty the fridge of all the ice cream. From now on, the little lady can eat and do whatever she wants. Nobody stop her. Hearing this, Mia looked completely stunned and asked if I was serious. I looked at her with icy, cold eyes. "Do you want to see your Uncle Blake? I will take you over to his place later. You can stay there as long as you want, even forever." Mia cheered with absolute joy, running straight to her room to pack her little backpack. I looked at Lily, my beautiful wife. Her gentle face once tricked me into taking the fall for Blake. Now, knowing her true nature, she just seemed completely boring to me. Lily shifted uncomfortably under my gaze, frowning slightly. "You are acting weird today. Did something happen?" I smirked. "Nothing. I just do not want to live this exhausting life anymore." I was already preparing to fake my death and erase my name. Their future was none of my concern. Lily and Mia were no longer my family, so why waste my energy on complete strangers? Lily placed a soft hand on my shoulder, gently massaging it. Her sweet voice asked, "Arthur, when are you going to make some time for us? Even if you stop working, our family wealth is more than enough to live comfortably for a lifetime. Why put yourself through so much unnecessary stress?" My body went completely stiff, remembering how she manipulated me in my past life. I swatted her hands away and just stared at her. As she started to panic, I laughed lightly to make her think my cold stare was just her imagination. "Come back to the main estate with me," I said. "I have a family announcement." The very moment we walked into the house, Mia threw herself into Blake's arms, instantly playing the sweet, adorable daughter. "Uncle Blake, I missed you so much. You look so handsome today." The little girl, who was usually a total tyrant at home, acted sweet as honey in front of him. I just stood there, deadpan, watching Lily look at Blake with pure adoration. "Trust me, you and I are going to enjoy seeing them lose everything." She quickly looked away, sensing my gaze. "But trust me, you and I are about to watch everything crumble as my brother Blake walks over, holding my daughter's hand." They were wearing matching outfits, looking like a real father and daughter. My brother Blake grinned, asking if I liked the clothes he bought. He teased my wife Lily, pulling my daughter's hand. Lily flinched, but since I was sitting right there, she hid her smile and simply nodded. Mia hates pink, but Blake wore it easily, giving me a smug look. He asked if I was jealous that my own daughter liked him more than me. Memories of my brutal past life flashed in my mind. I dug my nails into my palms, using the sharp pain to keep my rage under control. My dad suddenly called out my name, Arthur. He pointed to a table packed with mild home-style dishes, all customized to my personal dietary preferences. In my past life, my ruined stomach could not handle spice, but because Blake loved it, our tables were always covered in red chili oil. Yet today was a rare exception. My dad actually cooked all my favorite foods, but just as I thought they finally cared about me, they dropped the most brutal bombshell imaginable. They told me that they had discussed it, and starting today, I did not need to run the company anymore. They wanted me to stay home while Blake took over. The heavy, suffocating glares of my entire family made me feel like a thief stealing from my own brother. Nobody remembered that before the company went public, I literally collapsed from pure exhaustion and ended up in the intensive care unit multiple times. Now pay attention, because they totally forgot that when my mother was diagnosed with liver cancer and desperately needed a transplant, I was already recovering from a severe sickness myself, yet I still laid on the operating table to donate my own liver to save her. At the table, my daughter Mia cheered, asking if Uncle Blake would buy her anything since I was too stingy, while my wife Lily gently agreed with her. Lily told me she could support Mia and me, while my mother waved her hand dismissively, declaring that she was the boss and the decision was final. My dad looked at me with tearful eyes, begging me to just let it go. In my past life, this was the exact moment I exploded and cut ties with them all. Back then, I swore I would never hand the company over to Blake, but this time, I slowly looked around the table at each of them. My parents, my wife, my child, and my adopted brother. I simply smiled and spoke up, telling them that since we were on the topic, I had an announcement too. Tomorrow, I am handing the company over to Blake. I am officially retiring to stay home and focus on being a family man. That single sentence turned the heavy silence into a celebration. My parents beamed with rare smiles, actively piling food into my bowl for once. They said they were pleased, though Blake was still naive. While Mia cheered for her uncle, I stared at the pile of food in my bowl with absolutely zero appetite. I looked at my wife Lily. Her eyes were completely glued to my brother with total devotion. Nobody noticed when I quietly got up and walked out. 10 days later, my phone buzzed while I was jogging, and trust me, you and I both know a storm was brewing. Blake had tagged me in a post. He took a selfie in the CEO office wearing a sharp suit, trying desperately to mimic my elite businessman vibe. His caption read, "A new beginning." Within minutes, my entire family rushed to show their loving support in the comments. My mother praised him, my dad said he was finally grown up, Mia called him the best, and Lily left a short message telling him to keep it up. Seeing those warm, encouraging comments that absolutely nobody had ever told me, my eyes stung as a heavy wave of exhaustion hit. I stepped off the treadmill when Blake texted me again, inviting me to a family celebration party tonight at the exclusive Cloud Pavilion. He insisted there was a surprise for me, attaching a photo of my wife, Lily, leaning closely against him, showing a flash of her bare leg. The disgusting insult in that photo was crystal clear. 30 minutes later, I arrived at the venue. I pushed open the door to the private room and immediately heard his voice asking Lily when she was going to divorce me, mockingly asking if she had actually fallen for me. Lily replied coldly, asking how I could ever compare to him. She claimed that if it was not for the arranged marriage, she would have never married me. She explained that since he just took over, she needed to stay by my side to keep me under control. A loud ringing filled my ears as my blood ran cold. I stumbled backward, only for a passing waiter to catch me and ask if I was okay. I forced myself. My dad suddenly spotted me and offered an awkward smile, asking what I was doing there. They had kept this whole party a secret, terrified I would ruin it. Seeing my father's awkwardness and my mother's annoyed glare, I felt totally unwanted. I quietly murmured that I just came to support my brother. My vision blurred, my face incredibly pale. Was I really that worthless to them? I was not even allowed to attend a family dinner anymore. My mom frowned, ready to snap, when my daughter Mia's happy voice echoed out. She bragged about making a paper rose for her absolute favorite Uncle Blake. She ran straight toward the door, mistaking me for her uncle, and threw herself joyfully into my arms. I had not felt this kind of warm affection from her since she was a toddler who clung to my side every single day. But once she looked up and realized I was not Blake, she recoiled in horror, quickly hiding the flower behind her back with pure disgust in her eyes. The crushing pain hit my chest again. The door opened, and you and I can see my wife and brother walking out together. They both turned pale when they saw me. Lily panicked, quickly stepping away from Blake to ask me gently when I had arrived. She asked why I didn't just come inside. I stared at this woman I had shared a bed with for 7 long years, realizing her coldness was simply because she never truly loved me. Trust me on this whole marriage was just a sham to protect another man. Unbelievable, right? Disappointment filled my eyes. Since this is your family party, I would not dare intrude. Hearing that, Lily stiffened up, her chest tightening as she pleaded, "Arthur, do not say that." Her fake comfort did nothing for the massive wound in my chest. Looking at my parents, I said calmly, "I have things to do. I will not interrupt your reunion." Suddenly, I started coughing violently, quickly covering my mouth. When I pulled my hand back, it was covered in fresh blood. My parents panicked slightly, and Lily tensed up. But just as they stepped forward to check on me, Blake clutched his chest, faking complete agony. He cried out that his heart felt weird, and instantly, all eyes snapped to him. My mom frantically dialed for an ambulance. My dad anxiously rubbed his back while Lily rushed to get his medicine, and little Mia sobbed, telling him not to hurt. I had not walked far when I heard Mia whine, wishing I could take Blake's pain instead. My legs felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. Closing my eyes and gritting my teeth, I dragged myself out of the hotel to hail a taxi to the hospital alone. The doctor warned me that extreme emotional trauma meant I could not get angry anymore. I rested at home for days. Meanwhile, Lily and my entire family camped out at the hospital, completely focused on taking care of Blake. No one remembered that I was sick too. On New Year's Eve, I sat home completely alone, boiling a simple pot of frozen dumplings. With the maid away for the holidays, I was lucky Mrs. Higgins noticed how thin I got and left me some homemade dumplings. Watching steam rise from the pot, it was the only warmth around. Just days ago, building management claimed the heating was suddenly broken. They kept making excuses when I called. I am 80% sure Blake paid them off to freeze me out. It was minus 10 degrees outside and freezing indoors. Wearing my heavy coat and eating dumplings, Blake suddenly video called me. He bragged about celebrating on a tropical island, asking if I was okay alone. On screen, he looked warm and cozy in a cashmere sweater. Behind him, my parents chatted over tea, and through the window, I could see Lily and Mia enjoying holiday fireworks. The happy scene was heartwarming, but it had nothing to do with me. My family abandoned me in a freezing house while they partied. I did not even feel sad. "I am fine," I replied calmly. "Sorry to disappoint." Blake laughed provocatively. He mocked me for coughing up blood, saying Mom and Dad only cared about him. Then he revealed he froze my bank cards, claiming he wanted to protect me from getting scammed by bad doctors. He told me to just drink hot water, laughing in my face. Since running the company, he stopped pretending to be nice. From off-screen, Lily asked who he was calling. Blake lied, saying he was just wishing a friend a happy new year. Before hanging up, I heard her warn him to drink less alcohol because of his weak stomach. That is 7 years of marriage to me down the drain. I did not care who Lily loved anymore, but watching her and Blake act all affectionate in front of my parents, who just smiled and accepted it, that was truly disgusting. My body ached and my eyes stung. But pay attention, that is when the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Sterling's butler, bringing a mountain of gifts she prepared just for me, making up for the 30 years we had been apart. He wished me a happy new year. While my own family threw me away, she showed me real love. Seeing these carefully wrapped gifts, my tears finally spilled over. For 30 long years, my own parents treated me like a tool, but this lady, Sterling, who has zero blood relation to me, loved me like a real mother. Wiping my tears, I promised I would arrive at her estate in 10 days. On that day, I will be reborn. I managed to open only half the gifts before collapsing asleep on the living room sofa. In the middle of the night, a strange noise upstairs jolted me awake. Opening my eyes, I saw a dark silhouette sneaking around. I remembered this exact moment from my past life. Watch closely, because a strange woman is about to ruin my entire reputation. In that timeline, Lily assumed I was having an affair, ruining my reputation in high society. My family used that gossip to claim I brought them absolute shame. They even blamed me for Blake's arson, forcing me to take the fall. But this time, my survival instincts kicked in. I ducked into the downstairs bathroom and called the Sterling family security team, begging the butler to come back and save me. Before, she realized I was calling the cops and tried to smash through the window. This time, the butler and his men tackled her instantly. By the time I finished the police report, it was past midnight. I walked inside to find Blake and my family waiting in the living room. Those expensive gifts were stacked in the corner, and Blake was holding a limited edition watch with fake shock plastered on his face. He smirked, asking who gave me such an expensive watch since we were not home, pointing out it was a rare collector's dream. He glanced at Lily, who was already glaring at me with absolute fury. She sneered that she underestimated me, but I found her angry face completely hilarious. She did not love me, yet played the furious wife perfectly. If I had not overheard her talking to Blake earlier, I might have actually believed she cared. I told them the gifts belonged to a friend, not caring if they believed me. Meanwhile, the scratch on my arm was throbbing painfully. As I reached for the first aid kit, Lily grabbed my arm. Her gentle facade was gone, and her dark eyes looked cold and unfamiliar. She pointed at a woman's scarf on the floor, asking what kind of girl leaves that. Trust me, things are about to get wild. All right, you and I are about to watch a guy get pushed to his absolute limit. It starts when she grabs his fresh wound. She gasps, claiming she did not squeeze that hard. Seeing blood seep through his sleeve, she panics, asking how he managed to get hurt on New Year's Eve. She complains about his clumsiness, her fingers twitching as she tries to inspect the cut, but Arthur just looks up, shooting her an ice-cold glare. Her hand freezes instantly. She asks why he is looking at her like that. Without a word, he walks over to the downstairs bathroom and kicks the door wide open with a loud bang. The absolute wreckage inside is fully exposed. Lily and his parents just stare in stunned, speechless shock. He lets out a bitter, mocking laugh. A burglar broke in, and he almost did not survive to see the sun rise the next morning. Yet all they did when he walked in was try to catch him in some fake affair. His parents just look at each other, completely speechless. Lily sighs, trying to apologize and saying she should not have left him alone. Honestly, she could save those words for his grave. His heart does not even skip a beat. Arthur glares coldly at Blake, asking how a random woman managed to break into a high-security neighborhood on New Year's Eve of all nights. Did she somehow know he was home alone? Hearing this, Blake avoids his gaze, desperately trying to play it cool. Blake stammers that maybe she was scouting him or that Arthur knew her. Arthur just sneers and nods, saying if she is that dangerous, they should let the police handle it. Pay attention here, because Blake instantly panics and begs him not to call the cops. Talk about suspicious. The parents immediately catch on, turning pale while Blake starts to fake cry. The mother wipes his crocodile tears, turning to Arthur with a mix of scolding and fake comfort. She argues that the police already have her, so why make a huge deal out of it? Is causing a scene really necessary? She tells Arthur to stop causing trouble. He used to think his parents only favored Blake because they did not know his true colors, but this is next level. Who would have thought that when their actual biological son was almost killed, they would still protect the criminal? Arthur's head is absolutely throbbing. He glares at them, cutting away the very last bit of family love he had left. Suddenly, a slender hand rests on his shoulder. Lily whispers in his ear, saying his safety is all that matters and she will handle the police so he is never in danger again. She is just terrified that a real investigation will drag Blake down. His chest hurts, and as he tries to push her away, someone rams hard into his back. He crashes to the floor, pain shooting up his spine. It is his daughter, Mia, crying hysterically and screaming the most hurtful words at him. She calls him a bad dad, screaming that he bullied Blake and should die. Lily pulls her back, but Mia keeps trying to kick him. The world moves in slow motion. His vision narrows down to just his wife and kid, while those horrible words ring in his ears. A single tear rolls down his cheek, something heavy swells in his chest, making him feel like his heart is about to burst. The suffocating feeling is too much. In seconds, his vision goes pitch black and he completely passes out. When he finally opens his eyes, he is in a hospital room. His breath fogs up the oxygen mask. His body feels like absolute lead, and even moving a single finger takes every bit of his strength. The nurse rushes over, relieved. He has been in a coma for 3 days, and Mrs. Sterling visited him several times. She says if he had not woken up, his boss would have lost her mind. He chuckles weakly at the exaggeration and asks about his family. The nurse shakes her head, saying nobody else showed up. Apparently, it was his housemaid who actually called the ambulance in the first place. Luckily, they treated the blood clot just in time, or he would have been paralyzed. Arthur frowns, remembering the moment he collapsed at home. Let's pause here. His entire family watched him collapse, yet not one of them showed up during his 3 days in a coma. His heart turns to absolute ice. Forcing himself to stay calm, he rests until evening. That is when Mrs. Sterling calls to check on him. When Lily's name comes up, she gets completely furious, yelling that the woman is totally out of line for staying glued to Blake's side while Arthur literally almost died. She promises to teach Lily's family a lesson, but before he can even process that, Blake suddenly sends him a video message. In the video, Blake is also in a hospital gown, looking pale, weak, and acting as pitiful as possible. His parents are crying by his bedside with puffy eyes. Then, a woman's slender hand appears, gently feeding Blake porridge. The wedding ring on her finger is identical to Arthur's. It is Lily, of course. As Blake eats, another tiny hand appears, feeding him a freshly peeled orange slice. Mia's sweet voice tells Uncle Blake to get well soon. So that was it. His entire family went missing in action because Blake was also hospitalized, and they were all too busy playing nurse. He closes his eyes and shuts off the video. Happiness is a luxury he can no longer afford. He just wanted some peace and quiet, but even that is denied. Soon after, the entire family rolls Blake's wheelchair straight into his hospital room. Lily croaks his name, looking like she wants to speak but stops. The dark circles under her eyes are heavy. In just 3 days, she has visibly lost weight and looks exhausted. The whole gang showing up gives him a terrible feeling. Before Arthur can even speak, Blake dramatically throws himself out of his wheelchair, kneeling by his bed and crying that he has a terminal illness and his time is running out. The moment he says that, the dad bursts into tears. The mother sighs, patting the dad's shoulder before looking at Arthur with red eyes, asking a massive favor on Blake's behalf. She wants Lily to stay by Blake's side so they can take commemorative wedding photos before he dies. The sheer audacity of this leaves him speechless. And trust me, you and I are going to love his response. He looks at their expectant faces, wondering if they are insane, and laughs coldly. What if I refuse? Arthur, how can you be this heartless? Your own brother is dying. Trust me, you'll be furious, watching his own father glare at him with absolute disgust, completely ignoring how pale and lifeless his own son looks. I calmly reply that they could spoil him all they wanted, but as long as Lily and I were married, I would never agree to this nonsense. Unless we get a divorce, I said, locking eyes with Lily. She instantly froze in shock. Her eyes flared with rage before she forced a cold, cruel smirk, shouting that they should absolutely divorce. She declared she did not just want to take simple wedding photos with Blake this time. She wanted a massive, grand wedding with him instead. After saying that, she helped Blake up and walked out. The cold hospital room fell completely silent. Now, pay attention here, because only after my tears finally dried up did I make a major life decision. At midnight, a taxi stopped outside a luxury villa. Wearing only a thin hospital gown, I stepped out to look at the home I once shared with Lily. Clutching a lighter, I walked inside. Reminders of our happy family of 3 were everywhere, like my daughter Mia's favorite doll on the rug. Her drawings on the wall were still there, and Lily's scarf lay on the sofa. Just days ago, they were playing happily in this very room. Swallowing my pain, I turned away and headed to the second floor, walking straight into the walk-in closet. Bypassing rows of expensive designer suits, I pulled out a cheap white jacket we bought in Las Vegas during our honeymoon mass wedding ceremony. The streets were neon lit back then, and I bought that jacket from a vendor before pulling Lily into a dancing crowd. We danced like drunk fools among strangers, her hands resting on my waist, refusing to ever let go. Her gentle, loving eyes made me feel like I was drowning when she said she felt like she loved me. I finally understand the bitter meaning behind those words now. Our daughter Mia was conceived that night, and they say children born from deep love are always beautiful. As a baby, she had chubby cheeks, fair skin, and huge eyes. She really was an incredibly beautiful child. Sadly, just like her mother, her heart only had room for Blake. I took that jacket and our wedding photos, my once prized possessions, to the garden. With one flick of my lighter, the flames instantly swallowed them both. Eventually, a cold breeze swept the ashes away. Our ties were officially severed forever, but as I turned to leave, check this out, joyful, happy laughter suddenly echoed right from the front door. Blake gently asked Mia if he could be her new dad since her parents were divorcing, his voice stabbing my heart as Mia cheered. She screamed that she absolutely hated me and wanted Uncle Blake instead. Extremely smugly, Blake told her to take a bath and promised her sweet chocolate if she behaved. He treated her like a puppy, but she didn't care, happily running to the bathroom and turning on the water. I hid in the shadows with a shattered heart as Lily walked inside. Blake immediately lunged forward and grabbed her waist. He eagerly tugged at her clothes, whispering about a surprise he had waiting, making her cheeks flush red. She gently stopped him, warning him that Mia was still awake, but Blake's eyes burned with lust as he dismissed her, saying she was bathing on her own. He eagerly kissed her neck, coaxing her to the bedroom, and the two stumbled inside, completely wrapped up in each other. Once the bedroom door clicked shut, I stepped out from the darkness, looking even paler than I did at the hospital. I stared up at their room with pure disgust and turned to leave, but then a sharp scream echoed from the bathroom. I rushed through the thick steam and tried to help her up off the wet floor, but she violently shoved me away. Who told you to come back? I have a new dad now. I don't need your help anymore. Her cold, icy glare stabbed my chest, but it was exactly what I needed to snap out of my delusion. I let go, stood up, and coldly agreed. Since she had a new father, she didn't need my protection, but out of final duty, I offered one last warning. Eating candy before bed ruins your teeth, so watch out for cavities. Those were the last words I ever said to her. Dripping wet, Mia felt a sudden pang of worry as I walked away, but thoughts of her sweet Uncle Blake quickly cleared it. Their sudden wedding wasn't exactly a massive, glorious event, mostly because marrying your brother-in-law right after a divorce is considered incredibly shameful in high society. Yet Blake dressed up in a sharp suit anyway, taking selfies and spamming my phone with every single one. He bragged about his wedding starting and how Lily claimed he looked far better in his suit than I did on my big day. As those texts arrived, I sat on a private helipad ready to board, holding a briefcase containing the financial documents of the family empire. Looking at his stupid gloating texts, I just smirked. I popped out my SIM card, snapped it, and tossed it away. I then ordered the elite security team to officially announce the news of my sudden death in exactly 30 minutes. I wanted to ensure my brother got his grand wedding gift right on time. The captain bowed and agreed. As the helicopter touched down right in front of me, I stepped onto the red carpet and took one last look at the beautiful city sky. It was as crystal blue as the day my parents first brought me home from the mountains, but this time, I was leaving for good. 2 hours later, the helicopter touched down. Arthur was officially gone, and you and I are about to watch his new identity, Zachary Sterling, take absolute revenge on them all. Alright, you and I are about to watch these toxic backstabbers get completely abandoned, while the massive Grayson empire gets swallowed whole in a brutal corporate takeover. I wanted everyone who wronged me left shivering in the rain. At the wedding, Lily walked arm in arm with my mother down the flower-covered aisle. Little Mia tossed petals as the flower girl. Lily looked at Blake, the man she spent 10 years loving, but she did not feel a single drop of happiness. Instead, she kept seeing me in my wedding suit. Right at that exact moment, the giant screen behind the altar suddenly flickered to life. My face appeared, huge on screen. Hello everyone, I am Blake's older brother, Arthur. I am sorry I missed the wedding, but I am currently dead. The entire hall went absolutely chaotic. Lily froze completely like a statue. The wedding ring slipped from her fingers, clattering onto the hard floor. The screen flashed my medical report. Stage 3 leukemia. Estimated time remaining just 1 month. My pre-recorded video kept playing, my pale face speaking slowly. Mom, Dad, I know I seem petty. Blake was suffering from a terminal illness, and I was too selfish to let Lily take photos with him. But hey, everything worked out. Now I have handed my wife over to him completely. You guys cannot be mad at me anymore, right? I smiled on screen. Congratulations to my ex-wife and my brother on tying the knot. Wishing you a long, happy marriage until your hair turns gray. Suddenly, 2 streams of blood dripped from my nose on screen. I quickly covered my face and cut the video. The screen went black, plunging the massive hall into an incredibly creepy silence. Lily stared in absolute disbelief. Her heart felt like it was filled with a bitter, painful ache. The wedding ring remained forgotten on the floor. My parents stood frozen, staring in shock for what felt like forever. Then little Mia innocently pulled my mother's dress, asking, "Grandma, what does cremation mean?" Now watch this, because this is where everything starts crumbling. Guests started whispering. The older brother is barely dead, and the sister-in-law is marrying the younger one. The Grayson family is a total joke. A respected elder stood up and walked out first. One by one, the other guests followed. In seconds, the massive hall, once packed with hundreds of people, became empty, freezing, and silent. This total disaster made Blake look like he had just swallowed a live bug. He was absolutely furious, cursing me over and over. Why did he have to humiliate me when he was already dying? Why couldn't he just die quietly? My dad choked back tears, wondering why I never told them. Blake panicked, quickly hiding his rage to put on a sad face for my father. Dad, he signed the divorce papers himself just to ruin my wedding. He is just trying to get revenge. I do not care about being humiliated. But what about our family reputation? Just as he finished speaking, a cold scoff echoed from the back. Everyone turned to see one guest still standing there. And trust me, this new face is a total game changer. A tall, powerful woman stood there radiating icy authority. She walked forward slowly, her sharp gaze sending shivers down Blake's spine. Lily frowned, asking her who she was and if she was on the guest list. The woman's presence was overwhelming. Her eyes were calm, filled with total confidence and absolute disdain. Her voice was ice cold. "You do not deserve to know my name." Lily tried to grab the woman's arm, but before she got close, several massive bodyguards slammed Lily to the ground. Seeing this, Blake stumbled back in pure terror, his face pale. "Who exactly are you?" The woman smirked mockingly and slowly raised her left hand. On her index finger, a silver family crest ring gleamed. The Graysons and Lily stared at it, their anger instantly turning to pure terror. It was the crest of the top-tier financial titans, the Sterling family. Their terrified reactions did not escape her sharp eyes. She curled her lip and waved her hand. The bodyguards let go. Then, she threw a thick stack of papers directly into Lily's face. Her icy gaze swept over everyone. "Open your eyes and look closely. For years, Arthur took so much abuse from you people. None of the people who bullied him are going to get away with this." With that, the powerful woman turned and walked out with her guards. My dad shakily picked up the documents. He caught a glimpse of the words, "organ transplant surgery." Blake suddenly snatched the papers, his face turning paper white. He desperately tried to hide his panic behind a fake smile, saying his body was heading to the crematorium. If we go right now, we might still see him one last time. The documents trembled in his hands. My dad felt suspicious, but the thought of me lying all alone in a crematorium was too painful. He cried out that they had to go so I would not leave this world completely alone. The family piled into cars and rushed to the crematorium. At the desolate mountain facility, thick black smoke was already pouring from the chimney. My parents froze in their tracks. My mom wailed my name. Meanwhile, Lily, with bloodshot eyes, grabbed a worker by the collar. "Where is Arthur Grayson? Did you burn him already?" The startled worker shakily pulled out the logbook, saying they received a man named Arthur Grayson today. He had a surgical scar on his left abdomen from a liver removal. "Is that the person you are looking for?" My mom snatched the book, saw my photo, and burst into tears. "It's Arthur." She and my dad looked at the records, finding a surgical note from 5 years ago detailing my liver resection. That was the exact time my mother needed a liver transplant. But right after the surgery, I went overseas on an emergency business trip, got trapped in a riot, and could not return for 3 months. I kept silent so they would not worry. But Blake had twisted the truth, telling my parents that I was a coward who fled to another country because I was too scared to donate my liver and save my own mother. We just watched the ultimate liar get exposed. My parents stared at Blake in pure shock. "Get ready, because you and I are about to watch the ultimate liar get exposed." "Blake, you told us your brother ran away," my dad roared as Blake backed up, stuttering that he didn't lie. The records proved Arthur gave up a piece of his liver to save his mom. Realizing this truth hit my dad like a freight train, his entire world shattering in an instant. He stared at the adopted son he had spoiled for 15 years, his heart aching with a devastating, unspeakable pain. What a lying scumbag. Because Blake was always sick, my dad had pampered him. Even after finding his real son, Arthur, he kept favoring this ungrateful leech. Nobody realized this snake had not only stolen credit for saving my mother's life, but actively tore us apart, making my mother believe I abandoned her to die. He was the sole reason my own family treated me like absolute garbage. Knowing his biological son died of a terminal illness completely alone and hated, it felt like his soul was ripped out. Panicking, Blake threw himself at his feet, crying, "Dad, I didn't mean it. You raised me. I'm your son. I would have saved her if I could. Besides, Arthur is already dead. His death has nothing to do with me. Let's just be happy again. I'm still your boy, right?" Hearing this shameless trash, my dad lost it. He wound up and slapped Blake across the face with everything he had. "Get out of my house. From this day on, you are no son of mine," my dad roared. Blake stumbled back, a bright red handprint burning on his face. Shocked, Blake touched his face, whining, "You actually struck me? Over something that happened years ago? Now watch closely, because my dad almost lost it again. You tortured my son. You deserve worse," he screamed, but Lily quickly stepped in to hold him back. She looked down at Blake's pathetic, swollen face. Suddenly, it hit her absolutely everything about this man was a total lie. His tears, his warmth, even his love for her was just a cheap act. She had only jumped in out of habit to protect her childhood friend. My dad glared at her with furious, tearful eyes. "You're still defending the monster who basically killed my son?" Hearing that, Lily froze. Realizing Arthur was dead, she looked at Blake with icy disgust and slowly backed away. My dad roared at Blake, "I was blind to bring a wolf into my house. I will never forgive you for what you did. Hand back every single stock and property in your name immediately." Blake wiped away his fake tears, stood straight up, and laughed in his face. "Sorry, old man, I can't do that." Nobody expected this leech to be so shameless. A massive shouting match exploded, and they completely turned on each other, showing the absolute worst sides of humanity. But Blake already held all the company's stocks and the official corporate seals. The family sued him, but lost every single lawsuit. Overwhelmed by stress and grief, my mother suffered a massive heart attack and was rushed straight to the ICU. After emergency surgery, she woke up crying out my name. My dad wept by her bed, hating himself for raising a backstabbing snake while treating his real son like garbage. And here is where it gets absolutely sickening. Blake froze their accounts to blackmail my dad. He forced my dad to sell all his real estate, cars, and family heirlooms to him for pennies. "No one in this city will lend you a single dime," Blake sneered. "Even if you auction your stuff, it takes 6 months to get cash. I'm afraid mother's illness won't wait that long." "Are you going to let your mother die?" my dad growled, staring at Blake with bloodshot eyes, his voice shaking with pure rage. "How can your heart be so utterly poisonous?" Blake laughed. "Don't blame me for being ruthless. It's because you two are just incredibly stupid. When I was weak, I had to kiss your boots so you wouldn't kick me out. Now that Arthur is dead, why should I play nice anymore?" He threw the contract directly at my dad's feet. "My time is valuable. Think it over carefully, then come find me." My dad was devastated. The son he had spoiled was exploiting their life or death crisis to extort him. His vision went completely dark and he nearly fainted. while Blake walked away without looking back. Moments later, security guards grabbed my dad and physically threw him out of the building. He never imagined he'd be violently kicked out of the company he built. Stumbling into the street, he was almost crushed by a speeding car, but a hand suddenly yanked him back onto the sidewalk. He looked up at a young woman showing a press badge. "You are Richard Grayson, right? I'm Stella, a reporter for Stars Coming Home. I heard 15 years ago you adopted Blake Grayson, who is now the chief executive officer. Can we talk?" My dad's eyes lit up like he'd been handed a lifeline. "Yes, let's talk. I will tell you everything." Late that night, Blake arrived home, took off his suit jacket, and threw it aside. Lily still was not home. Ever since the ruined wedding, she kept finding excuses to stay away. Sometimes meeting clients, sometimes taking business trips. She was acting just like when they used to sneak around behind my back. Blake was eaten alive by paranoia, but since he was guilty, he kept his mouth shut. While he sat there, fumes building up, little Mia ran over asking for a bedtime story. Looking at Mia, who had my exact face and eyes, Blake completely froze. His expression turned incredibly dark and twisted. A story? He grabbed her book, tore it to shreds, and threw the pieces. "You're not even my kid. Why should I read to you? Shut up and stop crying." "I hate crying kids. Shut your mouth." Mia's eyes filled with pure horror. This aggressive monster was nothing like the sweet, gentle Uncle Blake she remembered. Terrified, tears rolled down her face as her tiny body shook. Blake grabbed her arm and squeezed it hard. "Stop crying," he yelled, as Mia shrieked for her real dad. "And trust me, Blake is about to pay for every single tear she sheds." "All right, you and I are diving into a revenge story that kicks off with pure cruelty. This absolute trash bag of a man drags a crying little girl into a pitch-black bathroom, throwing her inside and locking the door. Trapped in the pitch-black darkness, little Mia felt like terrifying monsters were creeping up to bite her. She screamed and sobbed until her voice completely gave out, but absolutely nobody came to rescue her. Utterly exhausted, she curled into a tiny ball in the corner, weakly whimpering that she just wanted her dad and hated her Uncle Blake. Meanwhile, at a club, Lily stared at her phone. It was 4 in the morning, and her screen was completely flooded with furious missed calls and texts from Blake, demanding that she get home immediately. Lily sighed and turned off her phone with a heavy heart. Ever since my death and Blake moving in, their marriage had turned into a never-ending battlefield of constant screaming matches. Back when it was just me and her, we could talk about anything from finance to music without ever running out of things to say. But Blake only cared about fancy cars, expensive watches, and showing off his power. He was so insecure about her love that he tried to control her every move, sparking endless clashes. As the toxic fights piled up, she started wandering the streets at night, dreading the thought of going home. This was the bitter consequence of betraying me, and she had to live with it. Lately, memories of me kept flashing in her mind, even though she knew I was gone forever. Walking mindlessly down the club hallway, she suddenly spotted a familiar silhouette passing by. Thinking her mind was playing tricks on her, she quickly rushed after the mysterious figure. When she saw the man's sharp, unmistakably familiar jawline, her blood began to run hot. Arthur. She watched him walk straight into a VIP private room heavily guarded by 2 big bodyguards. Lily tried to slip inside but was instantly blocked by the guards, who coldly stated that no one enters the young master's room without permission. Now, pay attention here, because this is where everything gets complicated. She spots the Sterling family crest on their suits, recalling rumors of a long-lost son who suddenly reappeared. Could this really be the Sterling heir? How could 2 people look so completely identical? She quickly introduced herself as the chief executive officer of Lily Corporation. She asked them to tell young Master Sterling she simply wanted to offer a toast. The bodyguard went inside, only to return a moment later with an even colder expression. The young master apparently had no idea what Lily Corporation was and did not know her at all. He demanded she leave. This man was completely merciless. Lily was about to force her way inside when her phone rang. It was the maid, screaming in panic that Mia had grabbed Arthur's memorial portrait and run away from home. Lily froze in shock. Forget the VIP room. She bolted to her car and sped home. Mia was only 5 years old. Even though she could be a handful, she was actually incredibly timid and easily scared. The poor girl could not even go to the bathroom at night without holding someone's hand. Why would she run away? The moment Lily got home, she furiously questioned the terrified maid. Lily demanded to know if someone had bullied Mia. The maid stammered in fear, but Lily kept her voice calm, promising that no one would blame her. She confessed that Mr. Grayson locked the little girl in the dark bathroom all night, and she was found passed out from sheer terror this morning. While the maid ran to call a doctor, the little girl disappeared with Arthur's portrait. Hearing that Blake had locked a 5-year-old in a pitch-black room all night, a wave of pure agony crashed over Lily. Lily asked hoarsely where Blake was. The maid whimpered that he had just left, claiming he had an incredibly important morning meeting that he could not afford to miss. Lily roared his name in fury, storming straight to the Grayson Group corporate headquarters. Let's pause for a second. We both know things are about to explode. She alerts her friends to search for Mia and texts my parents, but finding out the kid is gone only pushes her over the edge. When she kicked open Blake's office door, she caught him passionately kissing a young, pretty secretary. Lily's anger exploded past the boiling point as she witnessed this ultimate betrayal. She screamed at him, calling him a spineless piece of trash with zero conscience. The loud roar startled Blake, making him jump up and hastily try to adjust his messy suit. Blake stammered, asking why she was there. Lily closed her eyes, fighting the literal urge to murder him on the spot before screaming at the secretary to get out. The terrified girl scrambled out as the air turned freezing cold. Lily took slow, dangerous steps forward, her eyes like two sharp blades of ice ready to slice him wide open. A cold chill ran down Blake's spine as he tried to stutter an explanation, claiming she had it all wrong and he was just playing around for business purposes. Lily let out a dark, menacing chuckle. Without warning, she grabbed him tightly by the collar, gripping so hard that she nearly slammed his useless body against the wall. She yelled that she was blind to choose him, throwing away Arthur for a pathetic loser. If he wanted to cheat, she did not even care. But the moment she left, he abused poor Mia until the terrified child ran away. She vowed not to let this go, while Blake frantically shook his head, denying the abuse. He claimed he only locked her in for a minute and simply forgot about her. Forgot? Lily gritted. All right, you and I are starting with this trash getting choked red-faced for locking a kid in a dark room. He gasps, clawing at her hands and wheezing that the kid cried too much. Hearing that pathetic excuse, Lily completely snaps. Smack! She slaps him with everything she has, leaving a massive red mark. Blake is shocked, spitting out, "How dare you strike me?" He warns her he controls the entire Grayson group now, and he won't hesitate to ruin her family if she pushes him. He knew she would be mad after catching him cheating, but he never expected a physical slap. Standing tall, he glares at her with pure venom and laughs. Now pay attention here, he warns her he is not a boy she can boss around. Touch him again, and she pays. Lily stares back with an icy gaze that makes his stomach churn. She dares him to try, shoves him away, and walks right out. Holding his burning cheek, Blake fumes as her parting words echo in his mind, calling herself blind for leaving Arthur for him. She regretted choosing him over a dead man. Clenching his fists, Blake plots his revenge until his assistant, Colin, knocks on the door. Reminding him of his afternoon TV interview, Colin helps him calm down before Blake heads to the waiting broadcasting van. Trust me, you and I need to watch this interview closely, because the host is about to drop a bomb. Alright, stick with me here as we watch this smug celebrity freeze when a talk show host asks him about being adopted and finding his real parents. A wave of dread washes over him right before his ultimate nightmare walks through the doors a poorly dressed, heavily tanned older couple rushing onto the stage. As soon as the woman spots Blake, she lunges forward, wrapping him in a tight hug while wailing dramatically without shedding a single actual tear. She cries out that they were too poor to raise him, her loud, obnoxious wailing echoing through the entire studio for everyone to hear. The camera zooms in extremely close, capturing every single micro-expression as Blake freezes completely. His blood turns to ice and his eyes widen in absolute horror as he looks at the front row. My father was sitting right there, wearing a cold, vengeful smirk. In that split second, Blake understood everything. His adoptive father had tracked down his real parents, teamed up with the television station, and set this trap to expose his poor, slums background to the entire world. The second he stepped onto that stage, his perfect, glamorous life completely collapsed. Meanwhile, 3 months earlier, I successfully pulled off my fake death plan and officially took over as Zachary Sterling, the son of Mrs. Sterling. Since Mrs. Sterling was resting at her mountain estate due to poor health, all family business fell to me. My assistant announced we had a Euro-Asian summit tonight. As the primary investor, I had to attend. Now, pay attention to my assistant Colin, who looked incredibly nervous as I sat there in my tailored suit reviewing contracts. He warned me that the heiress of the Vance family would be there, and skipping it might make us look way too arrogant. I just mumbled a quiet agreement without looking up. Colin instantly got excited, asking if I was really going, which made me look up with a slight frown. He quickly backtracked, promising to get the styling team ready so I would absolutely outshine everyone at the event. His crazy enthusiasm made me shake my head. I wanted to tell him to keep a low profile, but he had already dashed out. Suddenly, a video call popped up on my screen. I did not mean to answer it, but my finger accidentally brushed the screen and a gorgeous, striking face instantly appeared. It was Victoria Vance. She smiled playfully, teasing me about why I was ignoring her. By the way, she was 3 years older than me. We first met at a bar right after I finished my fake death plan. I was feeling terrible and had way too much to drink. Under the dim lights, she approached me with her gorgeous wavy hair, sparkling earrings, and a face that could hypnotize. My cold, dead heart actually skipped a beat. In that blurry, intoxicating atmosphere, we ended up spending a wild, chaotic night together. The next morning, I left a bank card with $200,000 on the nightstand, and she laughed, asking if I was just really satisfied with her. Thinking she was just a high-end club worker, I quickly tossed her a check for $1 million as hush money to keep things quiet. But you and I both know life loves plot twists. 3 days later at our banquet, she showed up as the heiress to our biggest corporate rival. Our families pretended to be friendly but secretly hated each other, so I panicked and spent days dodging her. Getting impatient, she threatened to drag her grandmother over to my house and demand marriage. Obviously, I had to stop that diplomatic disaster from happening. She shamelessly demanded to be called my girlfriend or wife in private. I had no choice but to agree just to keep her quiet. But giving her an inch meant she took a mile. She demanded a 30-minute video call every single day, forced me to date her all weekend, and would literally fly to other cities just to stalk me on business trips. She threatened to expose me to Mrs. Sterling, asking what kind of man just eats and runs. I was honestly too terrified to even answer her calls lately. Now, she leaned close to the camera, her alluring eyes full of absolute temptation. She asked if she should come over or if I was coming to her place. I tensed up immediately, but tried my best to maintain a poker face. I asked if she was being a bit too excessive, warning her that even though she was young and energetic, she needed some moderation. Vicky just narrowed her eyes, clearly loving these games. Sure enough, she stood up, wearing nothing but a very revealing silk slip dress. The faint marks on her collarbone from our wild night made my face flush. She threatened to show Mrs. Sterling exactly how I had bullied her. Completely defeated, I accepted her demand and promised to visit her right after the banquet. The Euro-Asian summit was packed with high society titans, and flashbulbs went off like strobe lights. When the Vance family Bentley pulled up, reporters swarmed like bees. Vicky stepped out in a sleek black dress with her hair in an elegant bun, her flawless face radiating a noble, completely untouchable aura. Everyone greeted her with deep respect. By the time I arrived, she had not walked very far, leaving us just a few feet apart. Suddenly, a reporter shouted that the young master of the Sterling family had arrived. Hearing my title, Vicky's icy gaze instantly lit up. She paused, took a pen from a nearby fan, and began signing an autograph with dramatic flair, a wicked smile playing on her lips. Knowing she was waiting on purpose, I tried to rush past her, but my leather shoes slipped on the slick carpet, and as I pitched forward, a hand caught me perfectly. Vicky looked down at me, her eyes full of amusement, teasingly asking if I was too exhausted to even walk straight lately. I glared at her in frustration, but within seconds, the reporters went absolutely wild, snapping photos of our close interaction. I ignored the slip-up, but midway through the banquet, Vicky sent me a trending social media link screaming that the Vance heiress and Sterling heir were a match made in heaven. My vision went dark. If Mrs. Sterling saw this, she would absolutely lose her mind. After ordering my team to scrub the internet, I stepped into the courtyard to call Mrs. Sterling, but looking ahead, a group of adults is shoving a helpless child around. Trust me, you and I need to see what happens next. Get ready, because we are starting with a helpless kid getting brutally kicked by angry restaurant staff for trying to steal food. My assistant, Harvey, immediately stepped in with a frown. The child was filthy, skeletal, and clutching a greasy piece of chicken like his life depended on it. I glared at the crowd, disgusted. Is a chicken leg worth beating a kid over? Hearing my voice, the angry group froze instantly. The head chef recognized me instantly and rushed over, explaining nervously, "Mr. Sterling, it is not about the chicken. This kid is a serial thief who recently stole a basket of premium sea cucumbers worth tens of thousands of dollars." I looked down at the trembling kid, who quickly hung his head in shame. It was obvious he had absolutely no family left to protect him. With a sigh, I ordered the kitchen to cook some real food and told Harvey to pay for everything the boy had ever taken. Soon, a massive feast was served. The kid inhaled the food like a starving animal. It was painful to watch, so I gently patted his back, telling him to eat slowly. The boy slowly let his guard down and shared his story. His parents were gone, and the grandmother who raised him had tragically passed away just days ago. He had stolen the expensive seafood just to pay off her hospital bills. Hearing this, my heart melted, but when I tried to wipe his mouth, the kid panicked and dodged. He whimpered that he was too dirty and would ruin my expensive suit. Seeing that deep, heartbreaking fear in his eyes, I decided right then to adopt him. Now pay attention, because here is a massive twist. After a warm bath, I realized this little girl was actually a boy named Theo, who pretended to be female just to avoid getting beaten up. My heart deeply ached, and I pulled him into a tight hug. Theo was way too mature for his age. He dressed himself every morning, folded his blankets, did his homework in silence, and barely ate anything, desperately trying to prove he was not a burden to me. To break the ice, I took him to an amusement park. We rode the carousel, and Theo, wearing a Blue Prince outfit and Mickey Mouse ears, finally smiled for my camera. It was the very first time he actually asked for something, quietly requesting an ice cream cone. I warmly praised him for speaking up. Since this was the first time he dared to voice a want, he deserved a reward. I held his tiny hand as we walked to the stand. But this exact moment was spotted by Mia, who was nearby. Her eyes filled with tears, but knowing her father hated crying, she bit her lip, held back her tears, and screamed, "Dad." She sprinted over, and to Theo's utter shock, violently shoved him to the ground before wrapping her arms tightly around my leg. I was completely stunned. Theo hit the hard ground with a painful cry, but he quickly scrambled back onto his feet. Even though his favorite prince outfit was covered in dirt, he fought back his tears, wringing his hands nervously as Mia glared at him with pure hatred. She screamed that I was her dad and called him a little thief. Hearing that word, Theo's lips trembled and he started crying. My heart shattered. I know what you were thinking, and yes, I peeled Mia off, picked Theo up, and told him that I am only his dad. That completely broke Mia. Watching me comfort another boy, her lips quivered and tears streamed down her face. She begged me to look at her too, asking why I was ignoring her. She asked if I truly did not want her anymore. Holding Theo, I looked down at her coldly, stating I only have one son and his name is Theo. I told her to go back to her family. Mia threw a massive tantrum, grabbing my leg and screaming that Uncle Blake was a terrible man. She cried that he locked her in a dark room and starved her like a monster. I paused, finally noticing her torn clothes, shoes with holes, and heavily scraped legs. She had actually run away. But in my past life, did not Blake treat her like a spoiled princess? Had fate really changed this much? Even though I no longer cared for Mia, I still called the police to notify Lily. 10 minutes later, a frantic Lily came sprinting into the park. Mia cried out for her mother, and Lily crushed her into a hug. Mia sobbed, begging Lily to bring me home because Uncle Blake was a monster. Her cries felt like a knife in Lily's heart. Choking back tears, she whispered that I was gone, but Mia screamed that she had just seen me. She cried that I must be mad, since I was playing with another boy, and ignored her screams. Hearing this, Lily froze and frantically tried to confirm. Mia nodded vigorously, swearing she was telling the absolute truth. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. If Mia saw me, it meant her eyes had not played tricks on her at the club. But what did Mia mean by a new boy? Without wasting another second, she dragged her daughter straight to the security room to check the surveillance footage. Sure enough, right there on the screen was a man who looked exactly like me. She instantly called the Grayson family to report the shocking discovery. The next day, I arrived at my office. The very second I stepped through the door, a pair of slender arms yanked me into a tight hug. Vicky's signature floral perfume filled the air as her warm body pressed against mine. She whispered into my ear, playfully asking how I dared to stand her up. She gave my earlobe a playful little bite, whispering that it made her ears burn with anticipation. I told her I was busy, my voice turning slightly husky as her fingers trailed mischievously across my chest. Vicky laughed softly, staying pressed close against my ear. She asked what could possibly be more important than a date with her. When I revealed I adopted a kid, she laughed, thinking it was an absurd joke. She squeezed me tighter, teasing that if I wanted children that badly, we could have easily made one together instead of adopting. I gently nudged her away with my elbow and smoothly stepped over to my desk to regain composure, reminding her that we agreed never to interfere in each other's private lives. Vicky scoffed, complaining that after just a few days away, I suddenly had a child. She whined that next I would probably find a wife and toss her to the curb completely. Her words were dripping with pure jealousy. I frowned, replying that it remains to be seen. That cold answer made Vicky freeze instantly, but cooling down, she knew Zachary Sterling was notoriously picky. It was not like just any ordinary woman could easily catch my eye. Besides, who could compete with the heiress of the Vance family? But as she confidently plotted her next move, the office door suddenly flew open, and trust me, you do not want to miss what happens next. Alright, you and I are diving right back into this insane family drama as Colin walks in, sees Vicky, and goes totally pale, demanding to know why she is here while I glare at her to shut up. After all, to the public, our families are supposed to be deadly enemies. Luckily, Vicky gets the hint and instantly shifts right back into her freezing cold business mode. She claims she is only there for business, which completely confuses Colin. He asks if she wants to partner with the Sterling family to buy out the Grayson Group. Hearing about the Grayson Group instantly makes me narrow my eyes. What the hell happened to them? Realizing I am out of the loop, Colin rushes over and whispers the crazy news. The CEO of the Grayson Group, Blake Grayson, is actually going to prison. I frown, completely shocked. According to my memories of my past life, Blake was not supposed to face criminal charges for another 6 months. Why is this happening so early? Colin hands me his phone to show me. I quickly watch the video clip. It is from a viral family reunion television show, and Blake's biological parents are hugging him and crying hysterically. Blake looks totally horrified, his face turning pale with sheer disgust. Finally, he snaps, violently shoving them away and screaming that he does not even know who these people are. He glares furiously at the television host, his voice shaking with absolute rage as he demands to know why they dragged these stray dogs onto the stage to claim him, promising to sue. But the host, Stella, stays completely calm and polite. She explains that before the show, they contacted his adoptive father, Richard Grayson, who gave them everything they needed. He provided the DNA sample, and after a thorough cross-reference, the show confirmed that Blake is indeed the biological son of this poor couple. She boldly tells him they can run another test right there on stage, and they are happy to fight him in court. Just then, my dad steps onto the live stage. His live testimony completely backs up the host, confirming that every single word she said is true. Now pay attention to this part, because Blake absolutely loses his mind, screaming at the crew to cut the cameras, but everyone hates his arrogant guts so much they actually zoom right in on his ugly, raging face. The unedited, raw footage of his breakdown is broadcast to the entire world. By that evening, Blake is the biggest trending topic online. People are turning his screaming face into memes and funny animations. Overnight, he becomes the ultimate national laughingstock. Blake tries to fight back, threatening legal action against anyone sharing his face, but nobody is scared. It only triggers a massive wave of online backlash. He actually goes through with suing a few internet users, but even though he wins, he only gets about $20,000 per person for emotional distress. This petty move makes the internet even angrier. Soon, people start digging up every single dark secret he has ever hidden, exposing his disgusting past to everyone. Scamming women for cash abroad, faking his degrees, stealing from his adoptive parents, refusing to pay for his sick mother's medical bills, and even marrying his sister-in-law right after his brother died. The endless stream of scandals completely ruins him. Angry citizens are mailing him death threats and weapons, demanding he return the entire company to my dad immediately. In the end, Blake loses his court battles and completely disappears from public life. I am not surprised by this at all. Honestly, my only regret is what happens to the Grayson Group itself. Just then, Vicky looks down at a text message from Stella. The text says the job is done. Vicky smirks and tells her she can pick up her new sports car whenever she wants. I had no idea she was playing so dirty. You and I both knew he would make a move, right? Hearing that the Grayson Group is going bankrupt, I immediately tell my team to contact them and offer to buy them out at market price. Colin heads out to handle the business, but not before throwing another highly curious look at Vicky. I lean back in my chair, tiredly rubbing my temples to ease the stress. A sweet scent drifts over, reminding me that Vicky is still standing right there. I look up just as she leans over my desk and plants a soft kiss on my forehead. She rests her chin on her hand, looking down at me with a very playful, calculating smile, asking if I am really planning to buy up the Grayson Group. She asks if I am trying to compete with her. Since we both represent giant rival corporations, the Vance family will not just hand over such a valuable company without a fight. I always separate business from personal life. No matter how amazing Vicky is when we are alone, I will not hold back when it comes to massive corporate power struggles. But to my complete surprise, Vicky stays quiet for a few seconds before letting out a soft laugh. She admits she was ready to fight me to the very end, but since I want this company so badly, she is willing to let me have it without a fight. Her soft concession completely catches me off guard. Her fingers gently trace my face, her eyes looking incredibly sweet as she demands a dinner date tonight as payback. Before I can even speak, she presses a finger to my lips, leans close, and whispers that by dinner, she expects me to keep her completely satisfied. My face turns bright red. On the day we officially buy the company, I stay at the office and send 2 executives while watching everything on video. On the screen, my dad and Lily walk inside. The massive wave of stressful lawsuits has aged my father terribly. He looks completely exhausted and hollow. After reading the paperwork, Lily asks why the Sterling family is willing to pay full price when every other business is trying to lowball them during this crisis. Our female executive closes the folder, giving them a very polite but cold smile as she says these are direct orders from our CEO. My dad looks at Lily, suddenly remembering the photo she showed him from the international summit. The young Sterling heir in that picture looks exactly like his own son. His eyes instantly fill with tears. Before my team can walk out, he desperately stops the executive, his voice shaking with a tiny, awkward bit of hope. He asks if she could please ask her boss if he would be willing to sit down for a meal with him sometime. The executive does not say a word. She looks at the camera, and my voice cuts in cold and merciless, telling him there is no need. My dad completely freezes, his heart filling with a heavy, painful ache. He knows he does not deserve forgiveness, so he just turns away to hide his tears. I shut the laptop and look toward the bathroom. Vicky is sitting there wearing a black silk blindfold, her hands and feet bound with matching ribbons. I ask Victoria how many of these wild games she actually knows, and as she kneels to kiss my hand, trust me, you and I are both dying to see what happens next in Season 2. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a wild night where she takes complete control, her dominant touch, making it impossible for me to resist. My temperature spiked under her wild guidance as I stared at her blindfolded face. Tonight, she was the ultimate predator. Even through the silk, her intense gaze scorched my skin. We surrendered to a chaotic, passionate night that did not end until dawn broke. The next morning, aggressive knocking at the door violently woke me up. I squeezed my eyes shut and groaned, my entire body aching as if I had been run over by a massive truck. I shook my head, trying to gently push off Victoria's arm, which was draped heavily over my waist. Outside, the butler called out that Madame Sterling had arrived. Hearing that woke me up much faster than a bucket of freezing cold ice water. I stared at Victoria sleeping soundly beside me, my heart pounding like crazy. But before I could shake her awake, she lazily stretched, pulled me back down, and mumbled for me to sleep longer. I slapped my hand over her mouth and whispered that Madame Sterling was here. Her eyes instantly snapped open. Panicking with a bright red face, I fiercely whispered for her to stay inside and hide, because if my adoptive mother found out about us, we were dead. Victoria just smirked, grabbing my wrist to tease me. I completely ignored her, jumping out of bed to frantically scramble into my clothes as panic fully set in. But she was completely unfazed. Even with the family butler right outside, she just propped up her head, leisurely watching me struggle to pull my pants on like a total madman. Before racing out of the bedroom, I grabbed a pillow and hurled it right at her head. I told her to stay hidden, then met the coughing butler who led me to the garden. There stood Madame Sterling, looking elegant in her traditional dress. She stood gracefully by the koi pond. She was nearly 70, but her regal aura was striking, showing how perfectly she maintained her youth. My adoptive mother, Madame Sterling, was casually feeding the fish. She then sat beneath a large parasol and gestured for me to join her. She rarely visited me outside of major holidays and always gave plenty of warning beforehand. This unannounced surprise visit was incredibly unusual and sketchy. She sat in silence for a long moment. Now pay attention, because just as I picked up my teacup, she dropped an absolute bomb, asking how long I had been dating the Vance girl. I nearly choked and spat my tea everywhere. As I hesitated over whether to confess, she told me not to even try hiding it. She said romance is normal and she would not forbid it, but she demanded to know why, out of all women, I chose that little devil from the Vance family. She warned me how cunning and manipulative that girl had been since childhood, calling me brilliant at business but far too naive when reading people. She will have you wrapped around her little finger instantly. Zach, it is not too late, so you must cut ties with her right now. Just as she finished speaking, a sharp, confident voice echoed from right behind us, claiming it was better to tear down a temple than destroy a marriage. She asked why Madame Sterling was talking trash behind her back. I spun around, totally terrified, and jumped up with a fake angry face to push Victoria away. I demanded to know who allowed her out here, yelling at her to leave. But trying to push a stubborn Victoria Vance was absolutely impossible. She refused to back down, tightly interlocking her fingers with mine as she stood proudly by my side to face my terrifying adoptive mother. Madame Sterling slowly looked up with an icy, suffocating pressure that made my hair stand on end. Pale with fear, I apologized and begged her to stop. But Victoria stood tall, looking my mother dead in the eyes, and confidently declared that she was the one who actively seduced me. She proclaimed her love, stating I was her only choice for life, and challenged my mother to punish her instead since I had nothing to do with it. You and I both know she's crazy, but seeing her squeeze my hand reassuringly completely calmed my racing heart. I stared at her in utter shock. My mother narrowed her eyes, asking if the Vance women had some sort of genetic obsession with stealing men from the Sterling family. 30 years ago, her grandmother stole her adopted brother, and now her granddaughter was stealing her adopted son, questioning if their entire family was insane. Victoria did not flinch, delivering a legendary comeback that nearly made me choke, asking who could blame them when Sterling men are just so irresistible. Then she added that when she first met me, I did not even have the Sterling name yet. She first met me in a tight alleyway. Back then, she was being hunted by dangerous enemies, heavily bleeding, and completely convinced she was going to die. That was when I walked by in my school uniform, a clean-faced boy with a warm voice. I took off my jacket and used it to stop her bleeding. She never forgot the faint smell of laundry soap on that jacket. Soon after, she caused major trouble and her grandmother shipped her overseas to study. By the time she returned, I was already married. She waited all those long years, patiently biding her time until I was finally single again. Even if I was her rival's adopted son, and even if it cost her life, she was ready to risk absolutely everything. Hearing this, my mother fell silent. I stood there completely dumbfounded, struggling to process her words. Seconds later, with tearing eyes, I asked if she was really the girl who used to follow me around back then. After returning to the Grayson house, Blake constantly paid ruthless local thugs to bully and brutally beat me up. One day, I fought back and saved a short-haired girl with incredibly sharp eyes. After that, she always waited quietly by my school gates at dismissal. She never spoke a word, just trailed behind me like a silent bodyguard until I got home safely. Hearing this, Victoria frowned, looking deeply offended. She complained about being called that girl, pointing out her elite private school let out at 3:30, and she went completely out of her way for me. I bit my lips silently, staring at her with pure, undeniable joy. But suddenly, my adoptive mother cut in, stating she did not care about our romantic little history. As a Vance, she can never have me. Her face darkened as I quietly let go of her hand, and trust me, this war between our families is just getting started. Alright, you and I are about to watch a guy refuse to betray the woman who saved him. Mrs. Sterling slammed a gorgeous dagger onto the table right in front of Vicky. She demanded she pay her grandmother's debt, and only then would she let her be with Zach. Vicky stared at the jade bracelet on Mrs. Sterling's wrist. Years ago, Vicky's grandmother had used a needle to permanently ruin Mrs. Sterling's right hand. Now, to pay that debt, Vicky had to destroy her own right hand. She looked at my terrified, teary eyes and shook her head. Her heart ached, but losing a hand was nothing compared to losing me. If this ended the family feud forever, she was ready. She raised the dagger, aiming right for her hand. I screamed and lunged forward, slamming my hand over hers. Click. The blade retracted harmlessly into the handle. Both of our hands were perfectly fine. We stared at Mrs. Sterling, totally confused. She snorted, sipped her tea, and said, "At least this girl has some guts." I let out a massive sigh of relief, smiling as I carefully asked what this meant for the family feud. Mrs. Sterling set her teacup down and stood up, leaving us with one final, fading command. "Once you marry her and bring her home, make sure you properly annoy her grandmother for my revenge." We instantly understood. We had her blessing. Vicky tackled me in a massive hug, kissing my face and whispering softly, "Let's go get our marriage certificate tomorrow morning, okay?" She was terrified something else would go wrong. Stick with me, because this insecure begging made me crack up. The wedding was scheduled for next month, but Vicky begged and pleaded until she finally dragged me to the registry office to get the paperwork done early. "Husband, I finally have an official title." Clutched the certificate, we walked toward her car. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Arthur." I froze. Spinning around, I saw Lily holding Mia's hand. Both of them stared at me with red, puffy eyes, and Mia choked back a sob. "Dad!" Vicky looked up, her eyes turning so hostile and cold that Mia did not dare take another step. She just gripped Lily's shirt, staring at Vicky with wide eyes. Lily's face fell, recognizing the woman who had crashed her wedding and caused a massive scene. Vicky casually wrapped her arm around my waist, her eyes locking onto Mia. Her tone was calm, but dripping with ice. "Kid, you can eat whatever you want, but you cannot just call anyone whatever you want." Mia's lips trembled, but she gathered her courage and screamed, "He is my dad." She lunged forward, trying to shove Vicky as tears welled in her eyes. "Don't touch my dad. You're a bad lady." Vicky rubbed her temples, getting a major headache. Thinking about how sweet and well-behaved Theo was, she made a mental note never to let a child turn out like this. She shot a judging look at Lily, her face practically screaming, "You clearly do not know how to raise a kid. Do you want me to do it?" Lily was furious, but she refused to let her daughter cause a public scene. She pulled Mia back, her voice stern, telling her to stand still. During their struggle, a button on Mia's coat popped. Lily carefully fixed it. In the past, those little tasks were always my job, and I thought she never noticed them. Seeing her care for Mia like that actually gave me closure. Lily looked up, her voice shaking as she said, "Mr. Sterling." She apologized for being too abrupt, and I told her it was fine, but look closely, Lily's eyes were completely filled with longing and guilt. Even though she knew the man in front of her was the husband who supposedly died, she lacked the courage to beg for my forgiveness. Regret consumed her heart. She was just about to invite me to dinner when Vicky suddenly held our marriage certificate high in the air, keeping her arm tightly wrapped around me. She aggressively staked her claim without a word. Lily choked back a sob, barely forcing out a congratulations. I opened my mouth to reply, but Vicky quickly beat me to it. "Thank you, CEO Lily. We will absolutely make sure to send you a wedding invitation," she said. She dragged me away, refusing to let Lily say another word. Watching us walk off so intimately, Lily was eaten alive by toxic jealousy. She kept thinking she should have been the one walking shoulder to shoulder with Arthur Grayson, but she was the one who threw him away. Mia tugged her sleeve, crying out for them to chase her dad before he left with someone else. Lily's feet felt like they were cast in lead. She did not know if she even had the right to chase him anymore. Back when I gave her my soul, she chose Blake. Now, I was the heir to the Sterling family, my status completely untouchable, and standing next to me was Victoria Vance, matching me in power, wealth, and loyalty. How could Lily ever dare to ruin my life again? She gritted her teeth, grabbed Mia's hand, and walked away. She told Mia to let her dad find his own happiness. On the drive back, Vicky squeezed my hand with terrifying strength, as if I would vanish into thin air if she let go. I knew exactly what she was worried about and sighed. "Vicky, I am not going to leave you, but you are squeezing so hard you might break my fingers." She sighed, loosened her grip, and whispered that she was just scared. Scared of what? She worried our bond was not deep enough. Since Lily and I were together for 7 years, she feared I would fall for her again if she begged. Vicky was usually the most calculating, level-headed person in the room, trained since birth to hide every single emotion. In all our time together, I had never seen her this anxious and insecure. She really was terrified that Lily would somehow steal me back. I felt incredibly touched and amused. Arthur Grayson was dead. His past, his memories, and his old love had all scattered into the wind, never to return. But I, Zachary Sterling, had chosen Victoria Vance. Her frown finally relaxed, but she still stared at me with dead serious intensity. Can you kiss me every single day like a seal of approval? Trust me, that cute demand is the perfect place for us to leave them. Alright, you and I are jumping right into a wild ride where our main character tries to ignore his girlfriend only for her to force his face back toward hers. She completely ambushes him with a kiss so deep, it literally steals the breath right out of his lungs. She does not stop until he is totally dizzy and gasping for air. Her eyes are filled with pure obsession, and her voice is deadly sweet. She basically tells him that since he won't make a move, she will, and he is never escaping. Just days before the big wedding, a massive gift box arrives. He expects another over-the-top present from Vicky, but inside sits a perfect, incredibly rare piece of family heirloom jade. The handwritten note attached says it all. This is a treasured family heirloom from his grandfather, passed down through generations, and now it is being given to him. It wishes him a happy marriage, and he instantly knows exactly who sent it. A wave of bitter, complicated emotions hits him right in the chest. When he actually needed his family, they gave all their love to his rival, Blake. Now that his old self is gone, they suddenly want forgiveness. But while Arthur Grayson might have let it go, Zachary Sterling never will. He locks the box right back up and tells his assistant to return it. The assistant delivers the rejection straight to his biological father. The message is simple. Young Master Sterling appreciates the thought, but this item is way too priceless. He cannot accept it, so please keep it. The father stares at the rejected pendant in absolute shock, sitting in silence for hours. Soon after, he falls terribly sick, and his mind slowly begins to fade into dementia. He wanders the streets holding a childhood photo album, showing it to random strangers and constantly rambling about the son he lost. He even begs strangers for forgiveness, sobbing that he was wrong. But pay attention here, none of that matters anymore, because Vicky and our main character are about to throw the wedding of the century. It gets that legendary title not just because the guest list is packed with massive billionaires and famous celebrities, but because two powerful matriarchs who absolutely hated each other for decades actually called a temporary truce. For the sake of this wedding, these two fierce rivals are forced to sit at the exact same table. On the outside, they smile and clink glasses, but inside they are definitely plotting each other's destruction. The couple is sweating bullets the entire reception, terrified these old ladies might start throwing hands. Miraculously, they survive without a single fistfight. Once the wedding finally wraps up, he collapses onto the bed in pure exhaustion, ripping off his tie. Vicky walks over, slowly pulling the pins from her hair while her fingers trace his jaw with clear, fiery intent. He tries to roll away and make a run for it, but she locks his wrist down like a vice. As he struggles, she grabs a bottle of massage oil, awkwardly rubbing his shoulders and teasingly asking why his face is turning so incredibly red. She smirks playfully, correcting herself to say she cannot call him Zach anymore. From now on, it is husband. Leaning in, she plants a feather-like kiss on his lips, her voice dripping with pure temptation as she warns him that the night is long and complaining is not allowed. He is totally speechless. He knows a woman as brilliant and wicked as Victoria Vance will never let him off easy tonight. Their intertwined shadows are clearly visible through the bedroom window. Right outside the gates of the massive villa, a woman stands watching with a face as white as chalk. Her heart feels like it is being stabbed by 1,000 needles. You and I can see she looks like a total soulless ghost. Upstairs, Vicky gently pulls the blankets over him, kisses his forehead, and quietly slips out of the room. Checking the security feed on her tablet, her eyes narrow with a gaze cold enough to freeze hell over. She heads straight out into the chilly night, black gown flowing, marching right toward Lily. The two women face off, both radiating pure hostility. The sheer jealousy in Lily's eyes burns hot, desperate to slice Vicky to pieces. Vicky sneers that she thought she heard a stray cat whining outside, but it turns out to be just another trespasser. She lights up a slim cigarette, blowing the white smoke into the cold wind with eyes full of absolute brutal mockery. Lily grinds her teeth, her face twisting in rage. She calls Victoria a manipulative snake, claiming he will eventually wake up and run back to her. She claims their family will reunite sooner or later. She has zero real confidence in her own words, but desperately clings to the past because she still holds Mia as major leverage. Vicky frowns, her expression darkening instantly, but at that exact moment, a sweet child's voice calls out from behind them. Little Theo, clutching his toy robot, runs over and grabs Vicky's hand. Instantly, her icy demeanor melts and the anger completely vanishes. She kneels and scoops him up with a warm smile, asking why he is awake. Theo glares over at Lily, saying he was scared that Bad Lady was going to bully his mom. His protective glare makes Lily flinch in sheer embarrassment. Vicky laughs softly, gloating as she asks Lily if she heard what the boy just said. She points out that the son they are raising together just called her a bad lady, putting heavy emphasis on bad. Theo, who woke up just to defend his mom, buries his face in her shoulder. His sweet voice rings out again, asking to go inside because the cold wind is blowing. He adds that if she catches a cold, Dad will be incredibly worried. Those sweet words completely shatter Lily's heart, leaving her drowning in a wave of devastating sorrow. She knows that even if Mia were here, that spoiled girl would never say anything so deeply caring to her own mother. In this moment, Lily's jealousy reaches an absolute peak. Vicky shoots her one last mocking look, turning around with Theo in her arms to head back inside. She tells Theo that if Dad wakes up, he will be looking for them. They walk back into the warm, bright villa, leaving Lily all alone in the freezing wind. A moment later, her family's car pulls up, headlights cutting through the dark. The driver steps out looking extremely awkward. He tells her that her mother ordered him to bring her home immediately to stop embarrassing the family in front of the Vances. Lily grinds her teeth in rage. She never expected Vicky to be so petty that she would actually call her mother. Completely humiliated and furious, Lily climbs into the car and speeds away. This legendary wedding dominates the gossip pages for weeks. Trust me, their wild journey is just beginning. Alright, let's look at a story of absolute envy. Everyone hated me for marrying the gorgeous, brilliant, and powerful Victoria Vance. Vicky never used social media until our wedding night. Her first post was just 5 words, "I am the lucky one." After that, she spoiled me to an absolutely insane degree. I had every supercar and limited edition watch I wanted, while she set a strict 9 p.m. curfew for herself. It did not matter how big the business dinner was, or how much friends begged. The moment the clock struck 9, she would leave. 9 p.m. is my curfew, she would declare proudly. High society teased her, joking that the terrifying Vance Aries turned into a love slave after getting married. She did not even flinch, just raised her glass with a smirk. I happily accept that title. After that, nobody dared mock her, mostly because they were sick of our endless public displays of affection. For my birthday, Vicky rented a massive luxury yacht and invited all our friends to party. Theo, now a tall, handsome teenager, stood on stage and played a breathtaking violin solo. "I love you, Dad," he said, kissing my cheek with eyes full of pure admiration. But this beautiful moment was watched by Mia, who had somehow sneaked aboard. Her eyes were red, fighting back tears because she knew I hated crying kids. Now, pay attention here. As I stepped into the VIP lounge, Mia suddenly blocked my path. With trembling hands, she offered me a drawing. It was a birthday cake with 3 smiling stick figures holding hands. "Dad, happy birthday," she whispered. "Mia misses you so much." Looking at her, she had grown so much. Her face was thinning out, resembling Lily more each day, but her eyes were much softer and clearer than before. I calmly took the drawing. "Thank you, but where is your family? Go home." Mia followed me, her voice heavy with grief. "Mom doesn't know I came." The butler brought me, but before she could finish, Lily's bodyguards rushed in, looking completely panicked. "Miss, we finally found you." Seeing me, they bowed awkwardly. "Mr. Sterling, we are so sorry for this disruption. We apologize." "It is fine," I said, turning away. "Arthur." Mia grabbed my finger. "I don't want to go back. I was wrong, Dad. I will fix it. I will not eat junk food anymore. I promise to do whatever you say. Please, don't let them take me." My heart gave a tiny, almost invisible ache. I stood in silence for a moment. "Be a good girl. Go home," I said softly. I gently pried her tiny fingers off and walked away. After that night, Mia kept trying to sneak over to the Vance estate. Lily found out and punished her repeatedly, but the kid refused to stop. Years passed, and Theo got into the country's top university. Mia, using her talent for dance, managed to get accepted into the exact same school. Theo told me she constantly tried to baby him on campus, even calling him Big Brother publicly. Her ultimate goal was painfully obvious. She wanted to use Theo to reach me, but Vicky was having none of it, setting up ironclad boundaries and forbidding Theo from getting close to Mia. Even as we grew older, Vicky remained fiercely protective, refusing to let Lily find a single crack to slither back into my life. You and I both knew this was coming the year Theo graduated. Lily and Mia also showed up at the ceremony. They stood far off, watching us take family photos with eyes full of painful regret, trying desperately to hide their deep envy. Mia quietly crept closer, hoping to photobomb our family portrait. But Lily's pride kept her back, and she dragged Mia away. She coughed softly and walked over to drag Mia back, but from the start to the end of the day, I never once looked back. That same year, my father passed away. In his will, he left his entire estate to me. The lawyer passed on his final message: "The assets are yours to use as you please." For the first 30 years of my life, I bled for the Grayson family. This wealth was built on my sweat and tears, but I wanted nothing to do with their name. With a stroke of my pen, I donated every single penny to an orphanage. The day we went to finalize the paperwork, Vicky came with me. We were quickly surrounded by reporters while the orphanage director warmly welcomed us. As we walked past a small street stall, an inspector was shouting at a vendor to leave. The The vendor threw himself to the ground, throwing a massive tantrum. "I am the eldest son of the Grayson family. How dare you touch me?" I looked over in shock. It was Blake Grayson, his hair completely white. He was wearing filthy rags, desperately wrestling with the inspector over a cheap food cart. A massive, ugly scar was slashed across his face. A brutal souvenir from prison. The once arrogant, glamorous young chief executive officer was gone, completely erased by the ruthless passage of time. Watching this pathetic scene, I did not feel vengeance or triumph, just a heavy sense of irony at how fate plays its games. Vicky's gentle voice broke my thoughts. "Zach, what is wrong?" I smiled, feeling incredibly light and free. "Nothing," I said. "Let us go." Everything from the past had scattered like ash in the wind. A beautiful future was waiting for me. Theo looped his arm through mine, glancing back at the screaming vendor. Blake caught his eye and quickly ducked, terrified. What a weird guy, Theo thought. And that is where we leave them, with the warm sun spilling across my face.